Hey, welcome to Living Ardently. I'm your host, Adrian Giraldi, and we are back with another episode. Today's guest is someone I actually went to college with and reconnected recently through the power of Catholic Instagram, and it's super cool. So excited to have her, but we'll introduce her in just a bit. So yeah, let's get into it. So today's guest is a writer. She also coined the term, the Theology of Style. And recently she slipped on her heels and almost fell, I guess. But I'm sure she saved herself. She'll explain herself in a little bit. But you can follow her at Lillian_Fallon on Instagram. Please welcome my guest, Lilly Fallon.
Hey guys, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm sure you recovered from the slip.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
I was very confident that day. I go to work like in an office 3 days a week, and then I do my freelancing on the other days. And so the days that I go in, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna actually wear something, because in Corona time, you just pretty much exist in sweats and whatnot.
Yeah.
Comfy clothes. And so I was feeling pretty bold that day, decided to wear some heeled booties. I was like, I can take this, but I'm very much like comfort first kind of girl.
Yeah.
I am all about personal style and like looking, fly when I can. But comfort is always number one. And I don't really wear heels that much because they're pretty uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And so I decided earlier this week that I was going to wear some heels, and it was going well until I was, first of all, walking down the stairs of the church that I work at, because I do communications work at a Newman Center. Yeah. And I literally, as I was walking down the stairs, I was like, don't fall down the stairs. Don't do it. Like, you'll be okay. You can do it. I literally, like, as I thought those words, I fell down the stairs. And then nobody saw me, though. I caught myself, like, when you, like, brace yourself against the walls, and you're like, no. Yeah. This is not going to be, like, a tumbling thing where I continuously fall down the entire, like, spiral. So I caught myself. Yeah. And I felt like, okay, cool, I'll be fine. And then as I was walking home from work, there's this guy who has, like, a garage. And when I intentionally walk past his garage, because he's like this like cool, like tatted, like working on old timey vehicles dude. Yeah. And I like walk past him every day being like, yeah. And so I'm walking back from work, and he comes out of his house like just as I'm walking past, and I was like, like trying to, walk super fierce. And like, because I was wearing like a cute outfit, so I was like, okay, work it. This is your time to shine. And so as I'm walking, that whole street was undergoing construction, and there is wet concrete. Who leaves wet concrete on the sidewalk? And so I'm like walking, and it's like ice skating. I was like, and I was, screaming, of course. Can't just slip in silence. No, screaming and yelling, and then I turn around and he's laughing at me. So, but I was like, it's okay. It's great. God was humbling me, and I'm probably not gonna wear those shoes again. Maybe it was just a lesson to like be comfortable first. I think if there's anything that anybody should derive from this, it's first of all, wear comfortable shoes, because it's not worth the pain. Beauty does not equal pain. And also, I don't know, maybe don't, like, stalk dudes. Don't stalk people.
Say that's stalking. I think
don't walk past them and look inside their garage every day.
Yeah, maybe don't do that. But
do you know Katie Waldo? From Instagram? Yeah. She messaged me. She was like, this is the beginning of your meet cute. Like, this is the beginning. Because he's going to talk to you. I'm still waiting for that to happen, for him to talk to me and be like, oh, you're so cute and clumsy. But not yet.
Someday. You just gotta keep that route. Keep the route.
Yes.
On,
I gotta trust in God.
Right. So this is awesome. That was a great story to start off with, and to get to know you a little bit more. We're gonna do some rapid fire questions to see how well you do.
Cool.
So-
Ooh, how well I do. I'm scared.
I
Are you
just
going to
wanna
ask
see how
like math
fast you can answer.
questions?
You know, it's just like some people like are really like, I don't know what to say, like, you know. But
Oh my gosh.
let's
Okay.
see.
Oh, I
Okay,
gotta see
ready?
how quick I can
So
think
these
on
are
my feet.
completely
Okay.
random questions, no rhyme or reason to them.
Oh my
like
gosh. Okay.
always. And I get them from the same questions from the same website. So like similar questions have been asked of other
Oh,
people.
interesting. Okay.
Maybe even to your roommate Chanel when she was on. So
Oh my gosh.
okay, you ready?
Let's see. Go.
What is your middle name?
Marie.
What is wind?
Air. Ooh. What is
I just remembered Chanel's answer. She said, "Forceful air."
forceful air? That's a better, more descriptive answer.
Right. L.A. or New York?
New York.
Favorite martial art?
I don't have one. I don't know.
What's the sound you make when you're freezing cold? Do you think anyone considers you a hipster?
Yes, I got awarded at Ave most hipster award. You know how everybody got like the Neutropalia and like most intellectual, smartest, coolest person, and they got like plaques. My award was most hipster with Tyler Neal. Do you remember Tyler Neal?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes.
We were the
Wait, did you guys
hipsters.
graduate the same year?
I think we did, or either it was the same year or maybe he was right after me. It was like a general award. It wasn't
general
like
award, yeah.
official. It wasn't even an official
That's
hipster
so
award
funny.
or whatever.
You guys both are. That's so
Yeah. Truly. We deserved it.
Yeah. Are tomatoes a fruit or vegetable?
Fruit.
Black beans or refried beans in your burrito?
Refried.
What is your favorite clothing brand?
Ooh, probably Reformation.
Do you like Disneyland?
I've only been there once and I enjoyed it. I liked Epcot the most.
Yes, that's Disney World. Disneyland's in California.
Never been there then. So the
That's
answer
okay.
is
So
no.
I'm just a Disney nerd.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
More of a universal
When you
girl.
fly on a plane, do you wear a neck pillow?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You gotta show your ways and style it up.
Yeah, you gotta have a snap one because if it doesn't snap, it does not
yeah.
work and it sucks.
You just.
Yes, it's like actually worse than not having one.
It is. Because then you're like anticipating support when you really don't.
Yeah, exactly.
For a journal, paper or computer?
Computer. Well, my iPhone, I type in my notes. Yeah.
Is it grammatically proper to capitalize the names of seasons?
I believe it is. I do it, and I should know the official answer, but I say yes, but I'm not sure if it's true.
Polka dots or stripes?
Stripes.
Something you can eat for a week straight.
Probably ramen. Ramen. I love ramen.
Would you rather lose all your hair or gain 50% more?
Ooh, probably gain 50% more.
If there's a spider in the house, do you kill it or set it free?
Kill it.
Are dogs people?
No.
Do you believe in Santa Claus?
No, but I did for a really long time.
It's like I was in college.
Really?
I found out.
Really devastating when I found out that people don't real.
Type of milk you put in your cereal.
Cashew.
Oh, that's really good.
It's so
Mountaintop,
good.
wait, climb a mountaintop or jump from a plane.
Climb a mountaintop. I feel very passionately about that one.
Right. She was. Name a word that starts with the letter Q.
Quill.
What is your favorite carnival food?
Carnival?
Yeah.
Oh, funnel cake.
How many redheads are you friends with?
Like 5.
Ask for permission or beg for forgiveness?
Ask for permission.
Do you know the definition of triskaidekaphobia?
Triskaidekaphobia?
Yeah.
It's the fear of decks. Triskaidekaphobia. I'm afraid of heights, afraid of decks.
1 to 10. How hot do you like your shower?
Probably like a 8.
An 8.
Yeah.
Have you ever slapped someone in the face?
I don't think so. Shit, though. Something I'm putting on my bucket list.
It's something on the bucket list, right? Just gonna find a reason to someday.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I haven't done this.
Yeah, haven't been able to start practicing. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
0. It's so sad. I have reflux disease, and I can't have anything acidic. I can't even have black tea. I can't have pizza. I can't have anything. But coffee is the thing that I miss the most.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So it's like it's the new thing. It's not like a thing that you've always had.
No, I've had heartburn for like my whole life, and then as I guess I got older and developed the esophagus of a 60-year-old man, I can't have coffee, but I'm hopefully getting surgery for it. So
hey, prayers for that.
Again. Yeah.
Are rats cute?
No.
What's your favorite car?
Like a 1950s Mustang or something.
Hey. If you could ask God one question, what would it be?
Ooh, probably. I'd probably get something like intense and serious, and I'd be like, why is there pain and suffering? Just like so intense. Yeah. It's probably like, why don't you read C.S. Lewis or something, Lilly? Yeah. But yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The problem of pain.
The problem of pain.
Yeah.
That's the obvious coming out of us.
Yes.
Would you rather cuddle with a baby panda or a baby penguin?
Panda. Yeah.
Now, the last question is very important, okay?
Okay, oh my gosh.
If Voldemort offered you a hug, would you accept it?
Oh my gosh, probably, because I just want to be somehow a part of Harry Potter. Like, if it was my options, like, at all, like, if it was, like, continue existing as you are or get a hug by Voldemort, I would just be like, I'll take the hug, because, I don't know, maybe I'll develop, like, cool powers or something.
Immunity.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe not.
Just anything to be a part of, like, the wizarding world.
Wizarding world. So what is your house?
Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw.
Yeah. Dude,
I'm a Gryffindor.
Oh, are you?
I'm just kidding.
You're not a Hufflepuff.
But I actually am. Although my teen did one of those pseudo ones. I did a Pottermore one and I got a Gryffindor.
Oh yeah.
But then my one of my teens asked me questions and was doing this questionnaire off of some website and gave me Hufflepuff, and she just claims me to be a Hufflepuff. And I'm like, okay, listen to me. If it wasn't from Pottermore, I don't believe it. I mean, I don't believe it anyway, but
that's a fact. If it was from BuzzFeed, does not count.
Yeah. So now that we got a little bit goofy and got to know you, some random facts about your opinions on some things. Let's get a little bit of your faith background.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
were you brought up Catholic? And
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely cradle Catholic from the jump, and but I really took my faith more seriously, I think, once I got confirmed. Like, my family is super, super devout. Like, I was homeschooled, so that my family's intense about the faith. And not to say that people who go to school parents are not intense about the faith, okay? Right, I just want to specify that. My sister sends her kids to school, whatever. But my parents were very, very devout, and and so then, but I realized once it was confirmation time, I was like, okay, is this actually what I want to believe in? And so I read up on different religions and stuff, and Catholicism made the most sense still. So I was like, okay,
that's awesome.
Catholicism. Yeah,
that's more than any. I feel like any. What are you in high school at that point?
Yeah, I think I was a little older. Like, I don't know how old people are supposed to get confirmed, but I think I was 15 or so. And my nieces are getting confirmed when they're 12, so I had some time to really think about it, and I read up on Buddhism and Hinduism and all that. So yeah,
you did. That's awesome.
Do I remember anything that I read? Not really, but
it
was enough for me at the time to be like, okay,
Take us on the journey then. So then after you went to college, you went to Ave. Did you choose Ave or?
Yes. So it was interesting because I had always been obsessed with personal style and fashion, and I just obsessively consumed fashion magazines, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and I would stay up super late at night to watch Fashion Week shows early in the morning.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really wanted to go to fashion school. But because I was serious about my faith, I was like, okay, do I go to a Catholic school? My parents were like, you got to go to one of the like big Catholic schools. So like my sister, my oldest sister went to Thomas Aquinas, which is in California, and that's like the Harvard of Catholic schools. Like, very, very smart people go there. Not me. And then my other sister went to Christendom. And then my mom was very much like, well, you should go to Catholic school. And I really wanted to go to FIT, which is the Fashion Institute in New York. And I was just like praying a lot about it and feeling conflicted because I didn't want to throw myself into an environment where it would possibly be like tempting or I would stray from my faith, like if I didn't have a support system and if I wasn't getting the foundation that like learning more about my faith and growing in it. I was nervous about putting myself in an environment that I could lose my faith. So I kind of just like, and I was also just thinking about, okay, well, is personal style and fashion superficial and stupid? Like, should I be pursuing something that is more Catholic and more serious? Because one of the quotes that always was just floating around, I feel like in Catholic circles, is Catholics should be in the world, not of the world. And I was like, okay, well, because there's a materiality and a materialism aspect to fashion, does that make my interest in clothing and self-expression and personal style, does that make me somebody who is more materialistic? And if I keep on pursuing this, will I be, kind of, I don't know, turning into somebody who I don't want to be? And so I ultimately made the decision to go to Ave, and I definitely don't regret it in any way, but I spent a lot of time at Ave kind of feeling like I didn't really fit in with the interests like of other people. Like I fit in terms of like my friends, like the friends that I made are my lifelong, I'm like living with two of them right now. But I didn't really enjoy the classes that much. I enjoyed all the theology classes, but I was like, why do I have to take all of these like metaphysics and bio and algebra? Like, and so I was kind of struggling a bit with my interests, but then I eventually came to Theology of the Body, which was a class that kind of changed my life and made sense of everything, like my interest in style, and the ultimate reason why I was called to Ave and stuff like that. So, but yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, it's so awesome to like have been taught that class too by the man who helped translate it. I'm like, yo, that's so cool. And so it's like my bragging rights for a while until he left.
I know. That's stupid, Mo.
It was like so everybody cool, left after I graduated.
Pretty much. Ave changed a lot after we all left. But
it's really funny. I mean, like, honestly, after 2017 school year, like, 16, 17, when we graduated, like, we lost, like, Martin Doman, we lost the sisters, the Dominican sisters left,
my gosh.
They were relocated by their Mother Superior. We lost a couple of professors, and like a couple of other like
classes changed.
Really important people like in that were integral to the system, and I was just like, wow, this is crazy. So for those of you who don't know,
we did get that though, like we got the theology, like Dr. Reardon and stuff.
Oh yeah, Dr. Reardon. Yeah, I think he was like on like after we left, he was on like sabbatical for a while, so I don't know if he ever came back. So, for those of you who don't know where Ave is, it's in Southwest Florida, and that's probably like one of the biggest bragging rights it has from other Catholic schools. Yeah. Like with the exception of the ones in California, like JP2 and the one you mentioned earlier. Yeah, was it Aquinas?
TAC, Thomas Aquinas. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Florida is also really close, like only 3 hours away from Disneyland, an hour away from the beach. Mm-hmm. So,
It was funny because Ave is like kind of in a swamp, but it was still beautiful.
Yeah, there's more houses now there, and there's less like.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but there's still a bunch of mosquitoes come like summer mucky time, and those are the worst.
Yeah, there's trade-offs. It's still beautiful, but you got to deal with the mosquitoes and the giant grasshoppers.
The sunsets as you smack your legs the entire time.
Yeah, it's so true.
That's so great. So, then post Ave, you went to where did you go right after Ave?
New York. So I moved to Manhattan, or I didn't move to Manhattan. I moved to Queens.
Hey,
and I
was born in Queens.
Oh, you were? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I was living in Astoria for like 3.5 years.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so while I was at Ave, I got an internship with Verily magazine, and at the end of my time at Ave, I was like, you guys like want me to move to New York because I want to move to New York. Can I just like start working for you? And it was pretty coincidental because the style editor at the time was kind of phasing out, and she got married and moved. And so I took over her role, and I became the style editor of Verily for that time. And and then after my time at Verily, I just pursued my freelance career. But yeah, I was in New York for a while.
That's awesome.
And now I'm in Philly.
Yeah, now you're in Philly. So, but then, there you shared something in your story a couple of days ago, maybe like earlier this week. Like, that's just what, or no, is it one your other account?
Your Finsta.
Yeah, your Finsta. You shared
Finsta.
like where, like this, like the moment when you found out this is not the industry you want to be part of anymore.
Yes.
So, like, tell me a little bit about that. What was that? And let's dive into that.
Yeah, so, I mean, as I said before, my whole life, it was, like, fashion or bust. Like, fashion is everything. I wanted the Devil Wears Prada existence, which is, like, kind of weird because that was not a good situation for Andy. And I just, like, wanted to be in it all, like, Manhattan and being fabulous and, like, jet setting and just also in a genuine way wanting to be a part of the creative process because I love putting together interesting outfits to create beauty and being a part of that process of, like, being on set and executing it and creating that beautiful product. And so when I was at Verily, I got a very hands-on, like, I was doing photo shoots, putting them together, but it was, because Verily was so small, it was mostly just, like, a one-woman show that I was running in the style department, the style section, and so it was, like, I was styling it, I was hiring the models, sometimes I was modeling, sometimes, just our coworkers were shooting it, so Verily was so small that it wasn't really, like, the fashion industry experience. And so after I left Verily, I still was really trying to break into the fashion industry in a real way. And I was, like, applying to all of these, like, styling assistant jobs. I just wanted to do styling because I eventually wanted to be a fashion director where I was creating the vision for photo shoots and basically being in charge of, like, the visuals for a magazine. That was, like, my ultimate dream job. And so to kind of get there, cool. I wanted to start doing just styling. And I was applying to so many places, and it was just like, no, like shut doors after shut doors. And I was like, why is this happening? Like, I don't understand. Like, I do have, like, a pretty substantial background in being, like, a style editor for a small magazine, so I don't understand why it's so hard to get a small, like, styling gig. And one day, my favorite designer label, which is called Brock Collection, they had this open, like, call for people to, like, help out with their shoots and their Fashion Week shows. It was actually for Fashion Week that one time. And so I responded, I was like, hey, like, I'm, down to help. And they were like, cool, great, like, we'll pay you, sweet. And so I show up, and it was my first insight into what it really is like behind the scenes of New York Fashion Week. And And after that, they hired me kind of consistently for a year of doing their fashion week shows and their photo shoots and like their sample sales. It was anything that they had to do in New York because they're actually LA based. So whenever they came to New York, I was like one of their girls that always was there to help with stuff, and that was like staying up until 3 a.m. to like finalize looks for the fashion show, or putting like even like silly things like going out and getting coffee. I was like that girl. Like I was doing everything. And it really opened up my eyes to kind of how toxic the industry is, because people don't treat people well. There's this sense of, well, first of all, it's just so much excess, because you like look at these items that people are creating for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And the women who come to buy it, because if we were doing a sample sale, it would be like cheaper items, not like off the rack, but it would be discounted, but it was still like, it would be like $8,000 for something. And it was just so silly. I was like, why? Like, no, these people don't need this. Like, they come in and they have tons of money and they're just buying unnecessary stuff. And so that to me was like, oh, this is like kind of ridiculous. And then when it came to just how people treated each other, just this like, like they would ask me to go and like pick up the credit card of the fashion designer who accidentally left it in a bar in Brooklyn. Like he was like out drinking super late, and so I would have to go get his stuff. Or after spending days of working on outfits and like helping the models and helping organize things and basically just being like a work mule, just running back and forth with like the fittings and stuff like that, working so hard on the shoot. And then like during the shoot, it would be the most exciting part, and there would be like a famous model and a famous photographer, and like I would kind of be in there helping and doing stuff. And then the one time the designer, the mother, she was like, can you take our son and take him out to get ice cream? And I was like, lady, I'm like 26 years old. I'm here to like help out with this awesome photo shoot that I have been working with you guys on for days. And you're telling me to babysit your kid now? And it was just like a lot of stuff like that, or like the way in which they treated the models and the way that they treated each other. Like it was just such an air of like silly superficiality all the time. And like, who do you know? Everything was like, who do you know? Like, what famous designers do you know? What celebrities do you know? Where are you vacationing? Like, what fancy places are you going to? It was just this like world that exists just for itself. This, 1% of society where like they just exist in this world of, money. And it just, to me, I was like, this is not where I want to be. I just realized that it was kind of an industry that exists to perpetuate itself through making expensive clothes so that rich people would buy it, so then they can keep on making expensive clothes so that rich people would buy it. It's just this endless cycle that didn't really have much of like a purpose to it. And even though like these were kind of like big designer people, they were kind of, I don't know, like they really needed other rich and famous people to affirm them and to keep them going. So
it's like, it's so crazy to think about that, because it's like you can probably tell obviously from just what you're telling me, it sounds like they're not much different from who we are, right? But like they're searching, and they're looking in all the wrong places. And so it's just like interesting to kind of see that and hear that. But you probably, can you say that's probably true for
because I think that a lot of it is, money and entering into a world to kind of fulfill that desire for something more. It's like if you can numb yourself enough with excess and being fabulous, because it's just so funny, because so much of the fashion industry is just being fabulous.
Yeah.
Is just being seen as somebody who is revered by others, being seen as somebody who's the hot thing at the time. And yeah, I don't know, there's just always such an air of like, which is not surprising in any way, because I mean, how many fashion movies and TV shows have we seen where the fashion people are like, but it is kind of like that, where people pride themselves so much on being famous or whatever, high up, and it's just like they're just looking to fill whatever void it is, and it's easy to let fame and money and status get in the way of like really thinking about, okay, well, what is life really about? Which is kind of what I got to, where it was like that wake-up call, because I was praying for so long to get a gig in fashion, and I have a special devotion to St. Joseph, and a lot of the times if I'm looking for employment or work, I'll pray my St. Joseph novena, and he will, help me out. I usually have some sort of an answer at the end of it. And at the end of this novena, I got that job. But then I was thinking like, oh, this is going to be it. This is going to be my intro into the fashion industry. And then once I got it, I was like, oh, okay, so I got it so that I can see that this is not going to be it for me. Like, this is not going to be fulfilling. Yeah. That's so cool. So I was actually pretty grateful that I had that experience, because then I realized I didn't want to live in New York anymore. I realized I didn't want to be in fashion. And I got to this point where I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And it was kind of this identity crisis thing, because for my whole life, I was the, fashion girl. But I had realized I really did not like the fashion industry at all. It was toxic, and I didn't want to be a part of it. So I was just praying to God, like, well, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? Because I have no clue now. And at this point I had like moved back home too, because I like there's no point in living in New York anymore if you're like not doing something specifically in New York, because it's expensive. And so I was just spending a lot of time being in church, being like, what is it, God? What do you want from me? And just begging for direction. And
you might feel that way, might look that way, who knows?
Yes. And I came to the realization, like, after like really praying in church, that I was like, oh, like, I'm supposed to do writing. I'm supposed to be a writer. And I had always felt called to share this message of personal style and self-worth through the lens of theology of the body. And for my whole life, ever since I was at Ave, that was the main thing in the back of my mind, where I was like, this is what I feel the most passionate about and the most called to do. And it was crazy, because it was almost like the stars aligning type of thing, where my job at Verily had ended, my time in New York had ended, and my time in the fashion industry had ended, and I was like, what next? And I think that at that time God was like, I remember in my mind like being in church praying, and him like, or I didn't like hear the voice of God, but I heard, it was like a thought that, like, when you're praying and like a thought and a full sentence just pops into your brain and you're like, oh. Oh yeah. And it was like, you're a writer, so write this book. And I was like, oh, okay, it's time. So yeah. I guess that was kind of my super long answer.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I asked for the journey, and you definitely took us on that. And so then with that, right, you started, that obviously transitioned into your whole idea of theology of style, and your like helping to find your personal style. But I wanted to, like, before we got into that theology of style, was talk about how you yourself found like your personal style and how that kind of like evolved, because obviously it's something you're passionate about. You talk, I mean, in your entire story, it's like obviously a big part of your life. So how did that come about? Like, did you slowly kind of find out what worked, what didn't work? Did you just experiment? Yeah,
well, it's actually funny, because I feel like I've always had a strong sense of style. When I was a kid, I was always putting together like outfits, drawing designs, And in high school, like a lot of experimentation, like a lot of wearing like jeans with skirts and dresses, which is actually something I still kind of do. Or like wearing military jackets and vests with, you know, pretty things, which is also still something I do. So it was like every day.
I think about your story. I think about your story from a few weeks ago. Or
Which
one? I was
one?
like, so are you a Boy Scout from 1970?
Yes, that thing is right here. I'm looking at it. Right. Yes, I love taking things that are from different decades and that they're not necessarily like just women's clothes or even like just men's. I take children's clothes, which is weird. But yeah, like I very much loved thrift store shopping when I was a teenager. And basically I would wake up every day being like, how weird can I look today? Like my whole point was like, how challenging can my outfit be to others? Which was like kind of like self-absorbed and like whatever, teenagery. But I had always had a very strong sense of like creativity when it came to the way that I dressed, and I just like did not care. I like gave zero about like looking insane. And so that kind of carried on into like college sort of, but like when you're a college student, everything just has to be a lot more comfortable and you're just like getting your butt to class. So that's when the hipster kind of started happening, my hipster phase. And I still went to New York when I first moved there with a pretty strong sense of personal style and, you know, just I kind of stopped reading fashion magazines and stuff because I didn't really want the influence of outside sources kind of telling me what to wear, and following trends was not really for me. And so I just wanted that pure source of like, what do I think looks cool? And so I moved to New York, but New York City and its, you know, flashy lights and everything that's New York, I found myself really wanting to fit in with that scene and just wanting to be like, you know, the cool, successful girls who are like strutting around in like their sleek, chic outfits. And I was there with like bright colors and prints and everything's like mismatched and crazy looking. And they're in like breezy fabrics that are all black and monochromatic and androgynous, but I'd be like, you know, I'd be wearing something super, super feminine or something super masculine, and it was always like this extremes with me. But the women in New York were just so like effortless, and I wanted to be like that, and I wanted to fit in, and if I fit in, then I would be a part of the New York thing. Like I would have made it in New York, which is so funny because like when you think of New York, you think like, oh, like standing out and being different. And there are a lot of people like that. Like you'll walk down the street and you'll be like, wow, didn't expect to see that. But it's interesting because there's it's weird because the majority of like the working force of 20-somethings or 30-somethings in New York are all people who come from kind of like, this is going to sound awful, but they come from kind of like state school backgrounds, and they like go into marketing or advertising in New York, and they usually come from like a normal, like I guess like a normal city background or suburban background, and they kind of create within themselves this trend of like fitting in. It's kind of like the cool kids at school. All the cool kids at school who went to like a good college went to New York, and they started working in advertising and marketing and business and blah, blah, blah. And they kind of just brought that like popular kid mentality to Manhattan because they can afford it and blah, blah, blah. So I found myself kind of wanting to fit into that, to the New York look at the time, whatever that New York look was. And I started buying those clothes that were monochromatic and just kind of like simple but chic. And I got to a point where I kind of just like lost my identity. And I didn't really like know who I was anymore. And I remembered who I was and how like confident I was in high school and college. And I just didn't have that anymore. I was insecure. I was always thinking about, like, what do people think about how I look? Like, I used to just, like, not care about what people thought about how I looked. I would just, like, wear whatever I wanted to and look crazy. And I'd just carry on about my day. But in New York, I was just so self-conscious, and it was when I was trying to be someone else. And I also at that time started learning more about ethical fashion and how most of these fast fashion industries that allow you to buy items that look very rich and trendy and sleek are actually very cheap, and they're made in, you know, factories in third world countries, and the workers aren't getting paid fairly. And I started learning more about that, and I was like, whoa, maybe I should seek something else out. And so I decided to stop entirely shopping fast fashion, and I decided to stop trying to look like fashion bloggers that I saw on Instagram. And I think that at that point my personal style grew, and I really kind of got in touch with who I really was. And the more that I delved into like what I really truly loved about creativity and the things that I found, and when I would go thrift store shopping or vintage shopping, because that was something that I really started doing during that time, I began to kind of understand myself better, and I grew in confidence and began to see myself as somebody who is made in the image of God, and not somebody who's like made in the image of the world and made in the image of everybody else who looks the same, who's trying to fit in with everybody else. It helped me to realize, like, wait a minute, I am made one of a kind. I am an unrepeatable person. So why am I dressing like everyone else when God has made me this way? And so the more that I dove into that, the more my personal style just grew in, you know, creativity and looking more like myself. So, yeah.
And now, obviously, it's turned into something that has gotten you some, like, turned eyes towards your page, just because you have shared your kind of like your journey. I feel like your style on Instagram. And so we'll get into that when we get back from our break, but we're going to take a break right here. All right?
Yay!
Cool. Okay, we are back with Lilly from Lillian and Fallon. And make sure you go and follow her on Instagram if you are not already. You see all of her great stuff. And she also has a Finsta that she's showing a bit more of her fun stuff. What is that? What is that one?
It's Lil's Fallon.
Lil Fallon, like Lil, like Lil.
Lil's, Lils Fallon. It's I created because a lot of people have commented that my main Instagram, Lillian Fallon, is very like serious, and whenever they meet me or talk to me in real life, they're like, "Wow, you are not at all like how you seem on your Instagram." And I was like, that's so funny, because I've always been like more goofy and silly. I'm like the youngest in my family, so like I'm this crazy one in my family. And so when people say that my Instagram seems really serious and I seem kind of like moody and mean or intimidating, like my roommate said that when he first met me, he was like, wow, yeah, I was really intimidated because you messaged me on Instagram and I looked at your Instagram. Brian Wynn.
Oh, Brian. Brian.
He's a part of the Culture Project. Yeah, he's their photographer. And I had messaged him being like, hey, like, excited to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh my gosh. He seems really intense. And then when he met me, he was like, when he sees me, like my sweatpants all the time and like pimple cream on my face. And he's like, And so I'm definitely much more silly and fun and relaxed than my Instagram, because I like to write about more serious stuff on my Instagram, because that's where I'm like writing like mini articles and captions, and I have a very like deep serious side where I talk about like suffering, and then I have like my silly side where I'm just like whatever. So I want people to not think that I'm like really like a serious person all the time. So it's a way for people to kind of encounter just, like, thinking who I am. About it.
Like I knew, I mean, like, though we weren't like super close at Ave, I knew that you were like funny and fun to be with. Like I've probably sat in like a couple dinner tables with you and like a few people. So like I like never thought of like this person is super serious, you know. That's so
all she talks about is suffering and how the world stinks. Just kidding.
Right. So that's, I mean, I think in Living Ardently we like are pretty serious too, like on our daily posts. So like Like, let me
Yeah.
start making reels to make myself seem like less serious.
Yes, to add some personality. That's exactly what I'm trying to do with this Finsta.
Right. So
I
made this one. I thought it was funny, but apparently no one thought it was that funny.
Oh no, I need to check it out.
Low flying
Wait.
airplane noise. What do we want? Low flying airplane noises. When do we want them? Meow. What do we want?
That's funny. I like that.
No, it was just
Oh my
stupid,
gosh.
silly. Just kind of like,
I love that.
I'm just
I'm just a
kid.
funny dude. I'm just a chill dude. Yeah.
I'm the fun youth minister. Okay, like, right.
Exactly.
So
I didn't know
yeah.
that you
So
were a youth
then you
minister. That's
started putting all that stuff in, like putting your writings, I guess, into your Instagram. Is that how that kind of?
Yes.
Because that was your Instagram that you've had forever, right?
Yes. Yeah, I've had it for a really long time. I think that I had it and then I changed the name to Lilly and Fallon so that I would sound more professional and serious, which I guess kind of like created this problem that I'm in now. Because I was like, oh, it's like a resume. Because like Instagram's like when you're like a young professional and you're in the creative media field, your Instagram is your resume. And so I was like, shoot, if I'm trying to get hired by people, I gotta make this like legit. And so I put a lot of time into, hiring like my friends to do photo shoots so that like the outfits that I wore look cool because it was exhibiting like my styling abilities, so people would want to hire me for being a stylist.
Right.
And then I kind of attached it with my writing, which I don't know, like it started as it always was a place for like giving advice of trying to help women to find their personal style, because as I was saying before, when I kind of fell into that trap of like dressing like everyone else and fitting into the world, it was so related to a bigger problem that I was dealing with, which was putting my worth in the opinion of others and putting my worth in what the world defined me as, instead of who I've been made in the image of God. I wasn't putting my worth in God. Right. And so when I realized that like correlation in self-expression and how there's such a relationship in between ourselves and our clothes, because when we're feeling a certain way, we dress to express that. But also in the inverse, we can wear things that also impact how we see ourselves. Right. So it's this like constant relationship between the exterior and the interior, just like going back and forth.
Right.
And as I realized, the more that I stopped, I was like, you know what? Like it's not about getting the fancy job. It's not about being well known in the fashion industry. It's not about being that woman who I wanted to be for so long. It's about being who God is calling me to be. And I saw the relationship in that, and then how I started dressing. And the more that I dressed creatively and to express that I was made in the image of God, because at this point I was like, wow, like God loves me and he sees me as this like really cool, one-of-a-kind girl. And I want to dress to show that. The more that I did that and like dressing in like fun, expressive outfits and like feeling like when I would put something on that God would be like, that looks cool. Like, I'm excited that you're dressing in a way that celebrates your individuality and how I made you. And also expressing like, beauty in what you wear, which is such a power, is a tool for evangelization. And so the more that I did that and explored that relationship and how clothing can remind me of my like daughterhood, not to sound very like Catholic lingo, Catholic young adult lingo, that it really impacted my relationship with God and my relationship with myself, my relationship with others, how I saw other people for also being one of a kind. And my writing on Instagram started being like, well, I want to help other women to see this too. Like, I want to help other women to recognize that they are made one of a kind, and to allow the things that they wear to remind them of that. So yeah, that's kind of how my Instagram started going, and I wrote some articles for like Grotto Network on it, but it mostly was my Instagram. And meanwhile, in the background of all of this has been me working on this book to really like flesh it out and flesh out like the theology behind it. So yeah, it's kind of the story of my Instagram.
Did the following come as you just continued to share and
Yeah, I would say that I think it's funny because, like, you know, the engagement where you follow other women, I think it began with the community element. Right. So at this time when I had been in New York, but kind of like phasing out of my time in New York, like it lost its sparkle, it lost its novelty. I was really searching for community because New York, and people have always said this about New York, is that there's so many people there, but it's really easy to feel alone. Yeah. And New York is primarily like a more secular environment, and it can be really hard realizing that all the people that you're surrounded by and a lot of the time engaging with are people who would really hate you for your beliefs as a Catholic, that they would really see you as like an enemy, right. Which is just so sad. And it's just I'll never forget just kind of like sitting on the subway and like looking around at all the people and being like, I wonder how many of these people would just really like hate me just because I was Catholic. And so I was searching for community in New York and I found a lot of friends through the Catholic young adult scene there. Cool. But it's really hard to maintain consistent friendships in New York because everybody's so busy. It's not like in Friends where they're always around each other all the time. In New York, everyone's so busy because it's New York. They're in New York for a reason. Yeah. So they're working jobs and then they're exhausted and tired and they want to be alone on the weekends. Right. So you don't find a lot of consistent friends in New York that can hang out all the time. And so I found that community that I was looking for on Instagram with a lot of other women who were living the same life or like trying to follow the same path. And so yeah, I think when you're beginning on Instagram and you're talking with people, it's that engagement of people supporting you and being interested in what you're saying and being excited about what you're saying and sharing it with their friends. And I think that's just like a trickle effect. Yeah. And slowly but surely, the more times that I was shared, I got more followers and made more connections and made more friendships on the platform. Yeah. And last year I was invited to go to SLS. Nice. As like an influencer part, because they always have like an influencer team who goes and like records and all of that. And that was like a big like launching point where like a lot of people were like interested in what I was saying on my page, because it's a lot of people who like tag you and stuff. Like if you're hanging out with somebody and they tag you in their posts and other people see your stuff and then they follow you, blah blah blah. So yeah, I gained a lot of followers, I think, just from being there. And then I guess ever since then, it's just slowly but surely just more people sharing the message of what Theology of Style is, and supporting it. My neighbor is so loud. Can you hear him?
Now I can.
That's Frank. He's like our like super Philly neighbor who's like just always shouting and yelling. But he's like our neighborhood watchdog. Like he'll like look out for us too. So. That's so great. Anyway,
we love that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
We love Frank.
So then like the meat of it, like the Theology of Style, right? That I feel like is a huge part of your ministry in a way. And so is this something that, I mean, I feel like you've kind of indicated that it happened before the Instagram, but you kind of, it really implemented well into your writings and stuff. So let's talk about that. The birth of it, and kind of talked about it earlier, but
well, I took Theology of the Body with Dr. Waldstein, right? And prior to that, I had very much that fear of materialism and fear of materiality, like period. Right. And I think that a lot of us Catholics, without realizing it, kind of have a negative view of the body, because there's a lot of fear of like falling into sin, and there's a lot of fear of like I don't know, like there's a lot of fear around sex and sexuality and the body, and like we want to make sure that, like, you know, we're doing well and we're not falling into sin and stuff. But sometimes there's that like extreme, like, okay, like I'm trying to totally stay away from. For me, it was like I don't want to be materialistic. Like, oh my gosh, so I'm gonna like completely reject it and start seeing my body and my self-expression through my body as something that is possibly sinful. And so it kind of fed into that belief that like the body is bad. And when I took Dr. Waldstein's class, he explained how St. John Paul II taught that the body and soul were inseparable, and that the body manifests the soul. And there's a quote in Theology of the Body where St. John Paul II says, the body and only the body can make visible the invisible, the spiritual, and the divine. And so it just like flipped my whole perspective upside down, because for so long I saw the body as opposed to the soul and was like a detraction. And so that's why I thought that anytime I put together an outfit that drew attention to my body, that it was a detraction from the soul. But really, the body is an aid to the soul. And it's like, duh, like, because when we think about facial expressions and just like even think about how we're talking right now, and like I'm using my arms and I'm smiling and like you're seeing the expression of who I am and my soul coming through and how I'm using my body. Like my body is aiding in this. And as Catholics, we're taught that our bodies, we are our bodies. We are our bodies and our souls. Like we're not just one or the other. And so
both and
this like exactly. This like really flipped my perspective of the body and my kind of aversion to materiality and my interest, like feeling guilty about my interest in clothing. And I thought very clearly in my mind, okay, well, if the body manifests the soul, then the body, or then the things that we wear can aid in that manifestation. And so suddenly it was like this opportunity to help that, like the relationship between the body and soul, to show everyone, like to, I don't know, like to share with the world that we are a body soul unity, because there's also such a cool process when we are choosing the things that we want to wear that is I don't know, like there's when you are drawn to an item that expresses who you are in a way that like, you can't verbally say, like, because we've all had that experience where we'll walk into a store and we'll be drawn to something and we kind of like don't know why, but there's something about that item that we like love and we think is so beautiful and that expresses who we are. Because I know there's been a lot of times where I'll walk into a store and I'll be like, oh wow, that dress is so me, or that dress is so like my friend Katie or my friend Chanel, like that is so Chanel. And it's interesting that there are items and in the way in which they're created and their beauty about them can reflect a certain aspect of a person. And it's that invisible aspect that we can't quite tangibly get at in without like beauty being manifested in something. And so so I realized, like, wow, this is like actually a really cool opportunity to express the beauty of the soul, to choose items that reveal the beauty of the soul that we otherwise can't really express. Like, you can express the beauty of the soul through our like expressions, and the whole point of Theology of the Body is like, you know, through the spousal union you express the beauty of that body-soul unity. But in terms of art, like that blending of art and in a weird way utility, because clothes are like you need to wear them because they're practical. There's this like really cool opportunity to tangibly make a tangible sign of that relationship of your body and soul, and make that beauty of your soul tangible. So yeah, as I grew in like reading about theology and like studied more and more theology of the body and grew in my understanding of it, and like I was saying earlier, a lot of it is attached to your, you know, understanding your self-worth better. And I think the more that you understand that you are a body-soul unity and that you're not split, because I think a lot of the issues in the world that we have is this willful or attempted willful separation of the body and soul, where we view ourselves as only body. So like if you think about somebody who I don't know, like, I think we could veer into, like, the modesty topic, which is, like,
Right.
always, like, territory, but
Right.
if you see somebody who is, you know, wearing super revealing clothing, and they're viewing themselves as only worth their bodies, like, only as good as their bodies, and that they have to be defined by the world, and that their value is only in how sexually attractive their bodies are.
Right.
But, you know, we can also do this in other ways. Like, if you are vain, like, if you're somebody who's really obsessed with your appearance and you just put too much of your identity and self-worth in your body, then you are not seeing yourself as body and soul, and as somebody who's a whole person made in the image of God, and that you're, you know, priceless, and that there's no clothing or nothing that can, you know, be your worth aside from who God has made you to be.
Right.
So yeah, like, there's ways in which we focus too much on the body, or sometimes we focus too much on the soul, because then you can get into hyper modesty, where you're kind of falling into the same trap of viewing the body as, like, you know, purely like something sexual and must be hidden. But, and that the soul is, like, the only thing that you should be emphasizing, and so the body is bad, but the soul is good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, like, a whole other, like, topic, which
I know,
I'm giving a talk on that for a conference, so maybe if other people want to, like, learn more about that, I'll be talking about that. But in, like, basic terms of what Theology of Style is supposed to communicate is just to help women recognize their worth through knowing that they're a body-soul unity made in the image of God. Because at the end of the day, all that matters is that you know that you're made in the image of God. And the more that you know that you're made in the image of God, the more you understand his unconditional love for you. And that just, like, changes everything. It helps you to like, you know, obviously, like, love yourself and to love others, but it helps you to love God more. You see yourself as God sees you. And it's not, like, Theology of Style is not about clothing. It's not about, like, you have to look cute and you have to be stylish and you have to be, like, I spend a lot of time just, like, chilling in, like, normal clothes, because I know my worth, and, you know, who I am as a person is not contingent upon what I'm wearing. But I can use clothing as a tool at times to help me to remind myself and to express and celebrate the fact that I have been made in the image of God as a body-soul unity. And so, but if you find yourself feeling bad about yourself, or, like, you need to wear a certain type of clothing in order to, like, be better, like, that's not what it's about. It's purely about, you know, growing in your relationship with God through understanding how you've been made, and the way that you've been made can be celebrated and expressed through the things that you wear. So yeah,
That's
I don't know if that explains it. Like,
no, yeah,
it's sometimes it's such a big topic that I'm like, hard to explain.
It's like, it's so, I mean, like, maybe it makes sense to me because I took TOB, and if you didn't, it might be a little like, even then I still think you did a really good job of explaining it. But, you know, when I forget how I first saw it, but, you know, obviously we got reacquainted to your page because of other, like, influencers. I was like, oh my gosh, I went to school with her, and I don't know if I shared that when we were recording or we were just talking, but I remember hearing this and I was like, this is awesome, this whole idea of Theology of Style, and I was like, this needs to be, like, talked about more. This is cool. I mean, like, obviously,
Thanks.
I mean, it feels like maybe it might be my primarily, like, thing for females, but, like, it's still something that us as men can take in, you know?
Well, absolutely. There is so much importance in, and this is something what I'm going to be writing about in my book too, is that at the end of the day, TOB is about our call to unity. And we're all called to unity with each other. And, specifically in the spousal union, that's, like, you know, what TOB is all about. But there are other ways in our lives. Like, you don't just, like, get married and then suddenly you're called to unity. And, suddenly, like, you can have unity with other people.
Right.
There are so many ways prior to marriage in which you can grow an understanding of your call to unity and to, like, share yourself with other people. I mean, we do that all the time. Like, when we're just, like, helping our friends or caring for a neighbor or, you know, volunteering. Like you're giving yourself to selflessly giving yourself. And when it comes to the way that we dress and express ourselves and share ourselves with others, when we are, you know, revealing a beautiful part of our soul, something that's like unseen to others, we are sharing with them, you know, our souls. Like we're sharing like our beauty with them. And also, you know, similarly, like dignifying the beauty of our bodies, you know, those two things go together. And so it really is a gift to others. And I think that it is also, it's very important to male-female relationships in the way that we dress and how we communicate ourselves with members of the opposite sex. And there are ways in, like, it also prepares you, I think, for that gift. Because the more that you know, understand your body-soul unity, and the more you understand your worth in God, the more that you're able to enter into, like, you know who you are. The more you know who you are and the more you know who God is, the more you're ready for a relationship and to give yourself in marriage. So there's all these little things that we can do prior to marriage and growing that, you know, that gets us there, that prepares us. And also, like, you know, I think the focus can be like a lot on women when it comes to fashion and clothes, and I think that there is a reason for that, because I've talked about this before, where, you know, women have been specifically made like the fairer sex, and there's an evangelizing beauty about women that is specific to women, and I think that it's women, like, women will draw, like, you know, men to contemplate the divine through their beauty. And that's like, I think that's the reason why women have been made beautiful, which is such a gift. Like, that's such an amazing gift that, like, women, like, wow. And I think that's why it's interesting, because I think that's also why fashion and, you know, the more baser forms of, like, sex and, like, immodest, like, super immodest clothing, the devil always attacks the most important things in our culture. And I'm not surprised at all that women are especially exploited in our media, especially, and that's why I think so many people are like, oh, fashion is, like, bad, and fashion is, you know, evil and a part of this awful culture. But it's not surprising that the devil goes for what's most important, and I think that the beauty of women is something that needs to be, like, revered and upheld and respected, because it can lead men and others to contemplate the divine. So yeah, but in the same token, it is also really important for men to exhibit their strength and masculinity, because masculinity and femininity are things that in Theology of the Body he talks about so much. Like, they're so important, and that, you know, God contains all perfections of masculinity and all perfections of femininity within himself, and that we as men and women have been given masculinity and femininity. And I think the more that we are, like, we have masculine men who are, like, showing that masculinity through the way that they dress and also living it out in who they are, and also women living out their femininity in how they dress and who they are, that is just, like, it's such a process of, like, self-realization and actualization of what we're called to be. We can do that in the way that we dress. So it's not just some superficial, silly thing that, like, some people can, you know, be interested in personal style, but it's actually, like, not that important. But my whole thing is, like, it's actually really important. So yeah, for both men and women.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
So whenever, like, so you're writing all about this in your book, yeah?
Yeah.
So whenever it is, please let me know so I can promote the heck out of it. Like, once it's all finished, written, and all that stuff, because it's gonna be an amazing thing for a lot of people, I believe. So that's really cool.
Appreciate
and if you haven't, people, like, if you want to get to know more about this and you haven't read about the theology of the body, it is daunting and it's really big. But please, like, take the time to, like, read it. You can, like, even look up guides. There's a lot of beginner books
too.
Right. Or you can start with
there's a lot of Christopher West beginner books. Oh, he's great. I love him.
He had, like, the men, women, and the mystery of love, and like that, and that's from that's Love and Responsibility, like, based off of that, actually. So, but that's still a good book. So, like, whatever. Yeah. But Theology of the Body. You're saying something. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, I was just saying that there's a lot of like those beginner books that you can dive into, and like Theology of the Body is such a huge book, but it's not super hard to understand when you're reading it. Yeah. Like there are, I think it looks super thick and daunting, but there, if you begin like at like, chapter 1, the beginning, it's actually pretty digestible, but I also, would recommend the other like Christopher West books and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then, what are other projects, things that you're working on?
Man, well, my main project is this book, writing this book, because it's quite a process. It's just so different when you're writing about theology and trying to make sure that you're not saying anything heretical and trying to make sure that, like, you're explaining what St. John Paul II is saying and how that relates to what you're saying while explaining what you're saying. It's like, it's like such... I was like, at the beginning of the summer, I was like, I'm going to crank this book out this summer. It's going to be so easy. And then I was like, takes me so long to write anything. So yeah, I'm trying to make my book the highest priority, because it's really easy for me to let other projects kind of get in the way. Because at the beginning of the summer, I was doing like a lot of lives with people talking about style, and I was also doing like videos talking about style, and it's really easy to get burnt out and like not do those things. To not do the main thing, which is the book. So I do want to get back into doing my videos again. But I've been doing like a couple talks. Been asked to do a couple talks lately, so maybe that's something that I'll be doing more often, doing talks. So we'll see. Yeah.
I'll link. If you could send me some of the information of those talks, those conferences you're recording talks for, like, so I'll put those in the description. So if you're
cool.
If it's within the time frame that you guys are still recording, you can at least go check it out. So
sweet.
Or rather, when the conference is, I think that's, when is that?
So the one that I did before was Culture Project, which was kind of explaining like what I've been talking about now. And then the one that I'm doing now is for FemCatholic, which is about, this talk is about modesty culture and some of the negative effects of modesty culture and how we need to like reform that. That conference is going to be towards the end of this month. I forget the exact date, but I'm in the process of like recording it right now. Cool. So yeah.
Sweet. So once that's all up, again, all the information for that will be in the description there. And
Perfect.
On the link in the, what is this thing called? The show notes. There you go. I have to, like, I keep on saying like things about YouTube in like for the show, and it's not the same, so I have to like know that, hey, the language is show notes. So check the show notes and for the podcast, and you'll see all that stuff. Quick couple last things here. I want to know, and I'm sure a lot of other girls want to know, what is your go-to thing in your wardrobe?
My go-to thing, it's probably, first of all, my like Levi jeans. I love a pair of Levi's. I think that they're just like so classic, and they're comfortable, and they're that perfect mixture of like masculine and feminine. Like, I don't like a super tight skinny jean. I like something that's a little bit more vintage looking and goes with everything. So like a pair of classic like light wash Levi's go with anything. You can dress them up and dress them down, and they always look very street style and cool. And I would say also like my blazers. I have a lot of blazers that I snag from thrift stores. Thrift stores are where you want to go for blazers. Like, don't ever buy a new blazer. Thrift stores are just like full of really cool vintage ones. So hit up the thrift stores for the blazers. I mean, I guess I'm saying a lot of things, but I would say like my blazers and my Levi jeans.
Those are great. And those are awesome.
Are my favorite.
I just like, I always find myself like watching people's stories, especially like when you're styling your stuff. I'm like, I just like, I'm so interested, like for like, sometimes and like it doesn't like I don't gain much from it because I'm not gonna apply it to my own, but it's just interesting to see like the different ways people can style and like be modest and look cool, like it's just really cool. And I always like promote to my teens that are like girls, like, hey, like if you want to know how, like, cause they'll ask like, how do you dress more modestly? I was like, and still look cute. And I was like, there's so many different ways. And so like then I'll take from what I learned from what you guys' accounts, and then like tried to explain it, then failed, and I was like, just go to her account. And
that's so nice.
so check it out. So yeah, so you guys,
so cool.
you ladies who are doing stuff like this are inspiring the young generation, and I appreciate that as a youth minister. And hopefully they are taking their advice. Your
That's
advice.
always the most touching. That's always the most touching. Like when girls message and they say that, like, you know, I've helped them in any way.
Yeah.
I'm always just like, okay, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I want to keep on doing this. Because sometimes it can be like, does anybody care? Like, am I just like speaking into a void? But if whenever a young girl is saying that, like, I've helped her in any way, it just makes everything worth it.
That's
so.
awesome. No, I love that. I mean, whenever I talk to some other youth minister friends of mine that are not on Instagram, I said, like, get on Instagram. Look at the Catholic influencers, and these are the girls that you need. These are the people or guys, like usually the girls, like to send your teens to, you know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so cool that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, because like I tell my
that.
teens, I was like, they're gonna be on it regardless, right?
Yes.
And if they're gonna be on it, at least curate the feed for them or suggest things to them that are going to uplift them and bring them towards, heaven.
So
You know, if they're gonna be on it, use it. And that's why I love Instagram. There's terrible parts of it and there's some hard parts of it that's hard to love, but the Catholic side of it is awesome.
Yeah, you really got to curate that feed. I went after my like New York thing. I just went through and I just like unfollowed anyone who kind of like made me either like feel bad about myself or was like not a good influence. And it's turned into a platform that makes me feel uplifted now.
Right.
And it's very possible to have it be that, just so long as you make sure that you're not, you know, letting in things that maybe you shouldn't be.
Right. It's all about curating. You don't have to cut things out cold turkey. So
exactly. Yeah.
So anyone out there who's not on Instagram, it's okay to be on Instagram. Just moderate your time you're on it, but like also like curate your feed. So it's all about prudence, right?
It is all about prudence, moderation and prudence, which is like such a Catholic thing. I feel like Catholics are always like everything in moderation. Drinking moderation.
Drinking in moderation.
Yep.
As I have
like our logo. Moderation.
Right.
So funny.
So speaking of those girls that you want to help out, what's some tips for them, for those who are like wanting to change their style or find their style? What's your tips to them?
Okay. Yeah. My tips are, first of all, create a really strong foundation of your wardrobe, basics. A lot of the time, if women or men feel like they don't have anything to wear, and I think that's a common complaint that women, they look in their closet and they're like, I have nothing to wear. What do? I just need to buy more stuff. Usually it's because you don't have enough basic items, and those are the items that serve as the backbone of your wardrobe and your outfit. So those are the things that are like usually like more plain. So like, you know, your plain like non-destroyed ripped jeans, just like normal plain jeans. Your like black turtlenecks, or your like navy long sleeve shirts, or your white button down shirts, or your jean jackets, or your blue blazers, things that are, or like your trench coat. A trench coat is like the best. Black midi skirts, things that are more neutral in color, versatile in color, and they are those like simple items, because a lot of the time women will go to fast fashion stores and buy a bunch of items that jump out at them at the time and seem like really fun and cool, but they're usually like trendy enough and like a little like weird enough that they don't go with anything else in your wardrobe. So they don't have that versatility because they're trendy items. Usually you have to buy a specific item to go with that item. So my advice is to just get that like those basics all done, because then you build your personal style on top of that. So you style things a little bit differently. Like you can wear those black skinny jeans, or, you know, that navy blazer. You can wear that multiple times during the week, but like you can swap it out for like with a stripy shirt underneath, or you can wear, you know, your boots with it, or you can wear ballet flats with it, or heels. There's just so many ways that you can switch it up. So I recommend doing that. And then my second tip would be going to like the thrift store or vintage shops, and specifically allowing yourself to be drawn to items that you genuinely love, not what like the magazines are telling you to love, not what your friends are telling you to love, but just what you are authentically drawn to, and letting that kind of be your guide. and then asking yourself, what is it about this item that I feel expresses who I am? What is it about this item that is unique to me and my personality, my personal style? And then just being like, confident enough to wear it. If it's something that's like a little bit crazy and a little bit out there, just like if you love it, it's enough to wear it. So go ahead and wear it.
Yeah, I've taken some of your. Now I think about it, I was taking some of your stuff when I moved. You had one time you put a story up and it said that if you have something, two of the same thing, like you don't need two of the same thing. Like if you have, so like get rid of it, right? So like I was like looking at myself, I was like, oh, I have like plenty of white shirts and plenty of black shirts. I don't need these black shirts or these white shirts. So like I would get rid of them.
Yes.
So like you can still get a lot from your stories if you're a guy. So if you're a guy and want to curate your feed, curate your closet rather, do that. You can.
Totally possible. The tips that I just gave can totally apply to guys too.
Right.
It's like the same thing. Yeah.
That's so great. Now for those who are listening, what are some Instagram accounts that you want to shout out for the listeners to follow rather? So
I highly recommend my girl Michaela Rodgers. I did a live with her and we talked about thrifting, and it was just like one of the most fun lives that I've ever done. She started with her twin sister an online like thrifting vintage shop called Thrifted and Threaded. And so I recommend following Michaela Rodgers. And her sister's Mackenzie Rodgers. She's really cool too. And then Thrifted and Threaded is their shop together, and they have a lot of really cute items that they curate. Speaking of curation, oh my gosh, full circle. They go to thrift stores and they curate items that that they think are in line with like their kind of branding of like their style of their shop. Yeah. And so that's new for them, and it's really great. And that's awesome. I also recommend following Janet Easter, who also has a shop called Thrift, which is similar, which is vintage items. And I actually help her source items for her shop. I'm always at the thrift store. So what I do is I'll contribute to her collections where I'll pull clothes from the thrift store and then she sells them on her website. But her style is like super, super great, really cool. And she's also just like a beautiful woman. She was actually the original style editor at Verily, and then I took over her job. But now we're like working together again in this like cool way. But her page is really beautiful, and she's really cool. So yeah, I recommend following Michaela Rodgers, Thrifted and Threaded, Janet Easter, and Thrift.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so and then the last thing here is like, what is your goal for the rest of the year?
Oh my gosh, my goal for the rest of the year is to write this book, to write Theology of Style, and to, I don't know, probably maintain a level or to gain a level of discipline. Just be more disciplined in the way that I spend my time, to be more productive and getting things done. But then my roommate Chanel would be like, you need to be kinder to yourself. Probably also to be kinder to myself. Why did
you sound like her when you said that?
So I live with her because I hear her all the time. She'll tell me to be kinder to myself, more patient with myself. So working on being more disciplined with my time, but also being kinder to myself.
Awesome. So great. So great. Well, thank you again for coming on, Lily.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. Chanel said that it was really fun talking to you, and she was right. I had a really good time chatting with you. You're a good conversationalist and a really good interviewer, and I feel like I'm just chatting with a friend. Right. And I don't feel stressed about like answering a certain way. You know how like sometimes when you're like on a podcast or you're like being interviewed, you're like, okay, to like make sure I say everything. Yeah, like in a perfect way. Like I've had interviews where like I have my answers kind of like on the side, and I'm like trying to make sure that I say everything like perfectly. So thank you for being just a really good host and making me feel comfortable. So, of course, you're
and that's the whole reason why we play these games at the beginning and just trying to make it fun, because it's just like, for some people who haven't been on a podcast before, they're just like so stiff, and I was just like, all right, loosen up, we're just talking,
Yeah, and you did the games is such a good idea. I love that.
It's so great. I love it. Fun. And so thank you for the affirmation. I appreciate that.
Of course.
I'm learning to receive words of affirmation better. So
Oh, good. That's good. That's something that a lot of us need to work on.
Right.
So I
I'm
totally
just like,
feel you.
thanks. No, I was like, yes, no, actually, thank you, because it really does for me, because like, you know, it helps when it's something that I really want to be good at, and getting an affirmation in that way, yeah, it's great. So
Yeah, dude. Anytime you need some affirmation, you hit me up. I'll affirm the crap out of you.
right, thanks. So if you haven't followed her already, again, her Instagram is Lillian, Lillan.
Lillian.
Underscore Fallon.
Yeah.
Fallon.
That's me. Yep.
And then you can follow her other one at
My Finsta.
My-
Lil's Fallon. Lils Fallon. Fallon.
that is all in the show notes below.
The show notes.
The show notes.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Well, I do that too because we do post it on YouTube, but I've just been really slacking on it. So you can all follow me, follow Living Ardently at its own, follow Living Ardently at Living Ardently, and then me at It's Only Adrian. And then you can also follow our writers if you want to do that. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and a review. If you're listening anywhere else, just make sure you're following so you know when we're going to upload a new episode. Usually that's every Monday, but I think we're back on schedule at this point, so hopefully we are. And I think that's it. Again, make sure you check the show notes for all the cool things that Lily's doing. And keep your eyes peeled for whenever she finished writing this book, and make sure you get it. I'll be promoting it here once it comes out. So, coming hopefully 2021.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed. I know there's a whole lot of stuff with like
Fingers
writers and
crossed.
publications and like edits
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff. So it might take a while. So
Probably hopefully at least 2022.
2022.
2022.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So just
way
keep
away
peels
from
out, eyes out, and if you haven't now already,
Keep your peels out.
keep your peels out, eyes peeled. That thing. I'm really bad at idioms or things like that because I was raised by foreigners.
That's awesome. I'm gonna say keep your peels out.
Keep your peels out. Peel your oranges and leave them out. Okay, guys. Do you have any last words?
Oh, any last words? I would like to challenge you guys to look into your wardrobe and this week to put together an outfit that you feel best represents who you are as a person, that expresses the internal, expresses the beauty of your soul while also dignifying the beauty of your body.
Ooh.
So put together an outfit that you think describes who you are and how you've been made in the image of God.
Then tag
So, yeah.
both of us.
Yes,
And
we would
show
love
us.
to see
And
that.
Show us what you
I would
got, what you
love
made
that.
of. I'll put the
love
challenge.
to
I
see
love
that.
that. That's so cool. I love it. Love it. All right, y'all. God bless. Thanks for listening. And until next time,
Keep living ardently.
peace.
Peace.